Hey guys, welcome to the Field of 68 YouTube channel. If you like what you see here, hit that subscribe button and you'll get more college basketball content just like this.
Good evening, everybody. On this Wednesday, November the 1st, 2023, we welcome you to the Field of 68 After Dark. This is our bold predictions show. We will be offering bold takes to come over the next hour, but we begin with the breaking news of this evening. I'm John Fanta. Rob Dauster's here. Jeff Goodman's here. Terrence Oglesby is here as well. Bob Knight, the man most synonymous with Indiana basketball and a 1991 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, died today. He was 83 years old. The Knight family made an announcement tonight on social media. It's with heavy hearts that they shared the news. Grateful for all of the thoughts and prayers. Bob was a beloved husband, father, coach, and friend. He ranks sixth all time in college basketball history with 902 victories, led the Hoosiers to national titles in 1976, 1981, and 1987. Two other Final Four appearances as well, and won a national championship while a player at Ohio State in 1960, playing alongside John Havlicek and Jerry Lucas. Let's react to this breaking news. Jeff Goodman, I'll start with you. When you think of Bob Knight, his legacy, his mark on college basketball, what comes to mind?
I mean, greatness first, right? One of the greatest coaches of all time. But he was complicated. He was so controversial because of how he did it. And again, one of the things I always think of with Bob Knight, a lot of people can say, well, they think of that iconic moment when he threw the chair, how tough he was. Well, when you talk to any of the guys who played for Bob Knight, and it's the same with a lot of these old school coaches, Jim Calhoun, Bob Knight, some of these other guys, they'll say they hated Bob Knight when they played for him. Absolutely hated him. But when they were done playing, they loved him. He was revered because the lessons, the accountability, the fact that, again, he made them, he prepared them for life. He was a guy who, when he did it, he didn't cheat. He did it the right way. He graduated his players. Again, obviously, he was a great basketball coach, but he did things certainly to rub people the wrong way. He wasn't touchy-feely. But spending some time lately with Pat Knight, his son, I got some of those stories, the funny stories, some of the things you don't generally hear. And, even Pat Knight getting emotional, talking about his dad. And I still, I played it tonight, senior night, when Bob Knight said, my favorite player ever was Patrick Knight. And he walked off the court and you could see he was getting an emotion. He was getting emotional and a tear kind of ready to go down his face. So, listen, there'll never be another like Bob Knight, period, ever.
I think the perfect way to phrase it, Goodman, is complicated, right? He was a bully, and he was also one of the most brilliant basketball coaches that we've ever seen, that quite literally created a platform and created a playbook for an entire generation of basketball coaches. He was a guy that maybe didn't treat people the best way, that was maybe not as disciplined as he needed to be off the floor, while also demanding perfection from his players on the floor and getting it for a long time, as one of the greatest coaches that we've ever seen. And, the one thing that I am happy with is that he was able to reconnect with Indiana, right? The falling out that he had after he's lost his job there was something where he held a grudge for a long, long time. And Mike Woodson, now the head coach at Indiana, was able to facilitate him coming back to the place where he is beloved and revered. And once you get to that age, I think you can get to the point where you let bygones be bygones. And I'm glad that he was able to, in the final years of his life, be able to be celebrated in a place where he created his lasting legacy.
Yep. I agree with both you guys. I think absolutely complicated is the way to go. Now, all of that being said, he was almost out of the game by the time I was in college. He was on the last leg of his career at Texas Tech, but, tough. I've heard some people say great things. I've heard some former players say absolutely terrible things. So complicated would be the right thing to say. But On a lighter note, an absolute quote machine when it came to a lot of different things. On a lighter note, I understand the severity of what we're talking about, but some of my favorite things that have come out of a coach's mouth have come from Bob Knight, and the ass to brain theory is top of that list. Ass goes to bench, bench to ass to brain. Brain says I better go out and play harder. So there's a lot of complications with his legacy, but nobody's arguing his validity as one of the best X's and O's coaches of all time.
There's so much history that he shaped, Jeff. So many things that he did, so many stories that are coming out tonight about him. I'll never not be amazed at the fact that Mike Krzyzewski played for him at Army.
Yeah.
And that linkage, that bond. You're talking about two men who the history of this sport cannot be told without them.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, obviously amazing that Coach K played for Bob Knight. You know, Knight coached West Point for 6 years, then obviously went on to Indiana to do great things, win those 3 national titles. You know, last team to run the table from start to finish in 76. You know, I think it was hard the last few years too. Rob said it, and I remember talking to Pat about this when he walked into Assembly Hall, you know, 2.5, 3 years ago. You know, Pat was worried that whole week. I talked to him leading up to it, and I talked to him afterwards, and he was worried how Bob was going to be, because it was early dementia at that point. His health has not been great for a few years, but he said something clicked that day. And before, Bob Knight said to him, he said, all right, I'll do it, but are there going to be any assholes there? And Pat said, yeah, there's probably going to be some assholes there. He said, but I'll take care of them. Don't worry, Dad. I'll take care of them. And again, he was just a different, complicated, old school guy. I'll give you a great story. Funny story. I go out, and I didn't know him well at all. I was young, breaking in, and Jay Billis invited me after a game at the Garden one night to go out with me, Bob Knight, and there was a fourth person I can't even remember, to be honest. And we went to a deli. It was late. It had to be like 1 a.m. We got into a deli in New York, and I'm sitting directly across from Bob Knight, and we had dinner for probably 90 minutes right across from him. He didn't say one word to me the whole night, not one word. And I was so intimidated. And he honestly was the most intimidating coach I've ever been around in any sport, in any level. I was there in Texas Tech in Lubbock when he tried to set the record. He didn't do it the first time, and I was there. And I remember asking a question post-game, and I was shaking. And again, like, I'm not usually intimidated by too many of these coaches, but Bob Knight just had a different feel to him. You knew, again, if you asked the wrong question, he was going to bite your head off. You better know. And even if you ask a great question, he could still bite your head off. But again, he was just one of those guys who was kind of larger than life in a lot of ways when it came to college basketball.
That's an amazing story. I've never seen you get intimidated by any coach. And he just had that presence. Bob Knight. Bob Knight passing away at the age of 83. You can stay tuned to our coverage at the Field of 68. There'll be reflections to come in the coming days on our various podcasts and platforms on what Bob's legacy means to the sport of college basketball. He is one of the all-time greats, 6th all-time in college basketball wins as a head coach. What a career. Bob Knight, dead at 83. May he rest in peace.